Now, yes, unemployment rose a little bit in Queensland overall, 3.9%, a minor rise, but it fell. Unemployment rate fell in Brisbane, down 0.3% to 2.9%. Brisbane itself is very strong. Employment is strong. But have a listen to this. Petrol prices down. Food prices down. Interest rates down, perhaps down to as low as 2.5%. If you're in a job in Queensland, listen, these are good times. If you're in a job, these are great times. We have magnificent population growth. In fact, even Access Economics uses that word. We have magnificent population growth. There's plenty of opportunities. It doesn't do anybody any good for otherwise respected economic observers to say things like the economy's buggered. You would, some might say, not them. So that's Access Economics' view of the world. Our retailers make up, internal demand within Australia makes up about 60% of our economy. Scott Driscoll, well respected by this program, he represents the retailers in this part of the world, our part of the world, and Scott's generally available to us. Today's no exception. Hello, Scott.
G'day, Smithy. How are you?
Yeah, well, what did you read this thing, the Access Economics report?
Yeah, I did, mate. I'm still hiding under my desk with the Keynesian economics text, trying to find buggered somewhere, and waiting for the sky to fall on me. Hasn't happened yet, strangely.
Yeah. You heard what I had to say about them this time last year. The track record's not real flash.
No, look, and mate, they've got even more recent form on this. I'm looking at one of the releases they put out only a few weeks ago, mid-December, predicting that Christmas was going to be an absolute shocker for retailers.
How was it?
Fantastic, mate. It's set absolute records, biggest Christmas yet. So these guys seem a little bit more about gaining headlines, and I know they embargoed this particular release just to get a bit more effect.
That's true.
And, I think it's had an effect, but probably not all the positive effect from the conversations I've had today that they might have hoped.
When I went looking for the official figures today, I was actually surprised to learn that in the Brisbane, not across the whole of Brisbane, but in the average of the Brisbane region, unemployment is only 2.9%. That's amazingly low.
Well, look, it is. It's great, and I've got to say that in contrast to this one report that's come out, I mean, I've looked at reports from very well-reputed organisations that do this for a living, the Westpac Melbourne Institute.
Yes.
I mean, they're talking about in Queensland, the first quarter 2009 being up 3.5% on last year. So I don't think that's buggered.
No, absolutely not. And your members feel the same way, Scott?
They do. I mean, you're always going to have dips and troughs after Christmas. That happens every single year.
Yeah.
If these people are actually thinking that, hey, now might be a bit of a time to drum up some scaremongering, let's go and get some headlines, well, good on them. But at the end of the day, the biggest fear that retailers, and I would suspect any business person has, is this sort of report coming out and distorting reality.
Yes. And it's confidence is the important thing, isn't it?
No doubt about it. Consumer confidence is what really we're worried about, because household budgets are very strong. Employment is very good. You've got low interest rates. And I've got to say, mate, the big difference here in Australia, when you look at the Australian economy or the Australian RBA, for example, you've got a lot of wiggle room in the RBA's ability to bring down interest rates even further if it needs to stimulate the economy more. Because in the US, it's virtually at zero already. They've got nowhere to go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're dead right. And I would imagine that rates probably will continue to go down, which is, cause for more money to come into the economy and cause for bigger smiles on your members' faces, Scott.
Yeah, and it will be the members that will be smiling, but I think also the staff. Retail's the biggest employer in this country.
Yeah.
Around 1.5 million people are employed in the retail sector, and I think that is what is the real shame when you get Access Economics or anyone like that who wants to go out and try to grab a headline on a Monday morning. I wonder whether or not they really stop and think about those individual businesses who have to cop that sort of negativity.
Speaking of copping negativity, a phenomenon with which I've become well acquainted over the last week or so. You and I have both copped a fair bit of flack. Scott, for...
What are you talking about, Mike?
I'm talking about this issue of asking people to do the courteous thing and let you see their face if they're coming into the bank or the chemist or whatever, and you came out and said the same thing, that that you want people to just show their face, not come in a balaclava or a helmet or a niqab or a burqa or whatever. That here it is a cultural practice that we would ask people politely to observe. Now, you copped a bit of flack from the National Association for lining up in agreement with that position, did you not?
Yeah, look, I've got to say too, that organisation, and again, we're talking about people that like to try to grab a headline, unrelated to us. We're actually a national body ourselves, and these people might like to go and try to hark back to when we were just a Queensland-based association for their own glitz and glamour, but we really probably encourage such stupidity to come out of the mouths of our competitors because it's uninformed nonsense when they want to throw those sort of stones. And, I mean, I've spent the afternoon having absolutely, I've got to say, one of the most positive meetings I've ever had with the President of the Islamic Council of Queensland, who is a great man, very nice fellow, and understands precisely where it was that I'm coming from when I'm talking about that as a security and commercial necessity. And we're going to work through something here, and we're actually going to be able to deliver a code, and we'll be putting out a joint release tomorrow. That's the sort of stuff that's coming out of this. And I've got people out there in competitor land with me, and I take real offence at it, but let it go. I mean, accusing me of being xenophobic. I mean, absolute garbage.
You only got xenophobic, did you?
Yeah.
Hell's the lot. I don't know. I got death threats.
Yeah, I know.
And all I said in that original blog was that going into a bank in disguise was the headline. And then the blog went on, and my statements here on this radio show went on to say it's offensive to people who have been done over in a stick-up. It's offensive to people who don't know what's... I'm not saying that an Islamic woman is offensive. I'm saying that somebody who comes in, if you can't see their face, just let us see your face, and that's the end of it.
Yep.
God save us, the distortion and the bloody fear-mongering and blatantly stirring up racism and what have you, Scott. I was quite shaken by, the viciousness and the vitriol that certain segments of the media and some of the anti-discrimination lobby wanted to trot out. It was so bloody counterproductive.
And I've got to say, I really probably, the last few days have been some of the most, shaken is probably the way I would describe it as well. Some of the, and thank goodness though, it's only been a very, very small minority. I mean, I could count the number of hate emails I've got on probably two hands. But, I mentioned that today to the President of the Islamic Council. And
what's his name, Scott? What's the bloke's name?
Suleiman Sabdia.
Suleiman, oh yeah, yep.
And, Suleiman actually, he was horrified that people would react in that sort of way. He was apologetic. I said, look, mate, it's not you, it's not the thinking people. This is a minority out there who have not listened properly to what's being discussed. And what's being discussed is not about religion, race, colour, creed, anything. He appreciates that, and I think the vast majority of people who, are out there do as well.
Yeah, likewise for the vast majority of people that deal with me, but by geez, mate, there is an element of it that will apparently stop at nothing, including murder.
Yeah, and that's the sad part about it, that people would even if it's not carried out, and let's hope it doesn't come anywhere closer than just some harsh and unfounded words, but just the fact that people are prepared to put themselves on record, or their voice on record, not necessarily have the guts to put their name on record, that's where it ends.
Yeah, I'm not going to give them any more jollies by talking about it either. Scott, good to talk with you, brother.
You too, mate.
All the best.
Bye.
Scott Driscoll, the Retailers Association. You just had a very reasoned perspective on why it's desirable to have your face uncovered when you go to a shop. It's